All right, guys, welcome to my garage. We're going to do something different today. We're going to talk about how I screwed up this beautiful on a stupid error. And let me show you what happened. So this saddlebag here, wife and I were out touring around, and we had the jackets in each saddlebag, and then we had the two helmets back in the top case. I left the jacket in here, got back to the house, couldn't find it. I'm going, it's in the saddlebag, and figured I'd go out to the garage and get the saddlebag and the jacket from it. Bike's usually parked against this wall right here. This is a cinder block wall painted with a waterproof coating. I put my hand around the side of the saddlebag thinking I can hold it, catch it. But where you think it's going to hit that wall is not where it hits the wall. And so it hit that wall, and apparently it scratched it, and I didn't notice it till days later when we're out riding. Well, anyway, so I noticed it, and it has these big gouges, which I'm trying to highlight right there. Now, that don't look like much, right? Because I've been working on it for days. In fact, I worked on it so much I burnt the paint. See that? That looks like a crown? That's the paint that's burnt. And so I just couldn't live with it. Maybe you guys can. Friends of mine said just put a sticker on it, but anyway. So I looked around the internet. I found Partzilla. This part is $650. Partzilla sells it for like $480 or so. And I figured, you know what? It's a beautiful bike. I love this GoldWing. When I got to go with the wife, when we're going to ride touring, yeah, this is a great machine to take all the functionality. But there's nothing on the internet that tells you how to fix this thing. Basically replace it. Let me show you the replacement part that came today from Partzilla. Okay, so I took it out of the box already. Pretty big box. But here is the replacement part. It's always hard to get this while you're holding the camera. I should have just paused it. But it is what it is, as they say. There's the replacement part from Partzilla. It's dead on, I think. Let's take a look. Let's compare it. Yeah, it's about dead on as you can get. Okay, so you can see there's a lot of clips. So they must be in the parts that have to come off. So I've got to unscrew a bunch of stuff that are on the bike already, transfer them over to this piece. And I'll start taking this thing apart. And then as I get it apart, I'll point out all the bolts that are all these different places that have to be removed. Okay, so I removed this device first. You remove it by pulling out this clip here, and then you just take it right off the ball right there. Then I removed this cable, which was right there, so I could lower the case so I could get these pins out. But there's screws blocking the pins, so you need to remove the 3 screws in order to get the pins out. I'll pick it up as soon as I get the pins out. All right, I got the screws out and took out this pin already. It's a little tiny tricky. You're going to have to grab a needle nose or something and grab the pin, and it just comes right out. So let's put that there. Let's get this one out. I got the case being supported, but I'm going to pause the video just in case it tries to fall off. Well, I'm glad I paused the video because it does try to fall off. So now I've got the case in my hand, and we got to disassemble it. And maybe I'll do that in a more comfortable environment, like in the house where it's air conditioned. All right, just a quick note. I'm in the house, and it's always a good idea to photograph what you're taking apart, because I have lost more or extra parts over the years. So we talked about all these little screws that were here, and I removed them all, and the part's still on there. There's all the screws. So I came over to the new part, and I'm looking at it, and it's got these holes right there. So what that tells me is that these latches attach to that part as well. So I got to take that off as well. Okay, so I got all the parts off it now, and I still couldn't get it apart. And when I looked at this one over here, it looks like there's clips, those holes. So, as you could surmise, probably means this part has to come off. So that's what we're going to do right now, and I don't want to break them. So let me do that gently, because these parts are not cheap. Ta-da! All right, so there you could see that piece. This is the part I bought, but we're not done, because guess what? I still got to remove all this. Now let me figure that out, and I'll be right back. All right, so this is the replacement part we're looking at, and if you look at it, we're trying to figure out how to separate it. And the only thing I can come up with is when you look at these clips here, possibly if you slide it backwards this way, that might work. Well, let's see if that theory holds any water. Oh yeah, look at that. Look at that. Came right out. Ta-da! All right, this is the part that's bad. All disassembled, and now we just got to swap those pieces out. All right, when you snap this piece in, you want to hear a distinctive click in each one of these clips. That's the hardest one to do right there. All right, I've got the inside on. I haven't put the screws in, and I'm very leery about using this, even though I got us on the lowest setting. I might use it just to get started, but probably going to hand do it, because I'm betting that this is easy to strip out. Okay, so I started putting the screws in. I got 2 screws in, then I went to the top here, and they wouldn't tighten up. And I'm like, why won't they tighten up? And I'm looking in the hole, and the hole looks big, and I'm thinking, oh, I must have screwed up. And sure enough, you got to remove those clips in order to get the bolts to tighten. So don't make my mistake. So I got it all back together. I got the clips back in, up there, there, there. And just a note, so you know you have the arm with a little shock that has to go there as the bag opens to cushion it. And then don't put a bolt in there, because remember, that's where the cable's going to go. So we're going to go back out to the GoldWing and put it all back together now. Oh, do not use one of these to put it back together. The plastic in here looks like it's a little too frail, and if you get overzealous, even on setting 1, it might strip it out. So, hand screwdriver. All right, so the video, you could figure out I pieced it together, add about 10-15 minutes onto it at the most. That's how long it took me to get it back together. And just as a reminder, you gotta have to support this. So I have a Griot's Garage, a little rollabout. Supports it great when those cables and the shock aren't on. And so what I did is just supported it with that Griot's Garage, put the pins back in, 3 pins, put the screws back in. Once I had the screws secured, I went ahead and attached the cable. I had to hold this piece up, secure the cable, and then I came back over here, and these shocks are real easy. Just push it on. You should hear a click when it goes on. Then you got to come back to the back side here, push this in. It should be flush like that is. If it's not, then you don't have it in. And then, you know, the big test, here we go. It locked, and now I'm going to hit the release. Look at that. Honda wanted an hour and a half labor to do this, and I didn't start a timer. I should have, but it's not a big job. If you're a handy person, it's pretty easy to do. So there's nothing on the internet. You guys like, subscribe. I hope you enjoyed it. This is one hell of a motorcycle, and I own just about every motorcycle you could think of. So I enjoy them all, but this Honda's great.